online session, the shift in my thinking, in my attitude, the increased happiness, it's like nothing else that I've ever done online. Nothing else.
Doing it online is kind of almost doing it in present. It's like really, you get the same exactly benefits.
Welcome. Thank you everyone so much for being here. Happy full moon time to you. Okay, like this. Take your hands to your ankles, shins. Be right on your sit bones. Nice and easy, like through the nose. Lifting through your sternum on your inhale. Just softening up, giving a nice suppleness to the spine. Yeah, try to make it easy. Meaning you don't have to go max extension, it's just... Now close your eyes, listen. Deeper the breath. Inhale very deeply. Capture the breath in, soften your chest, soften your mind, listening. Exhale. Yeah, tuning our instrument. Hands are here. And then just let it swing. Inhale left, exhale right. So let's swing easy. Everybody does it for their own body and the way their own body can swing easy. Ad Gure. Gure is the Guru. This is the Guru Purnima. Throughout much of the world, considered among the most, if not the most, auspicious full moon of the entire year, because it's in reverence of the Guru. Inhale, center. Suspend the breath. Soften the chest. Soften the mind. Exhale. But especially for those of us who are Westerners, the Guru is a complicated issue. You know, we have very complicated relationships with teacher and authority figure, but that's not what the Guru is. You know, when we say Guru Purnima, we're not talking about any person. It can also be a person. Like if you've had some amazing teacher that's really helped you in your life, this is a time of like giving thanks. None of us get here by ourselves, you know. First we need our mothers, you know, and we also need our fathers. And, you know, thankfully also sometimes we didn't have the greatest time with our mothers and fathers. Not everyone does have that. And so you find the mothers and the fathers in all sorts of other forms. But that takes us on the heroic journey of our life. We all have our unique situation that we came here with. And some of us had wonderful mothers, you know, we were able to even like feed off of her breasts as a young child. That's what we should be doing, of course. This is the most natural thing. And then immediately you come into this world and your experience predominantly is just love, isn't it? And at the center of all of this, definitely, that's what it is, love. No doubt about it, but that's the exploration of the yogi, is what is at the center of this and to live through the center of this. And even though life's complications are just going to pull us in all sorts of ways, our hearts will get broken, our hearts will explode in joy, and everything in between. At the center of this thing, always in all of those emanations, it's love. So this full moon comes at a very, it's a strong full moon. The Guru is the Guru Tattva. It's the wisdom innate in the fabric of life, in the center of life. It's the wisdom that turns your mother's blood into milk. It's the intelligence inside of all things, and it's that which is kind of our guiding light, our GPS that we can all tap into if we take care of our intuition, and we take care of our heart, and we take care of our mind, this whole kind of radio system that we have, the mind, the body, into what wavelength am I going to be tuning into? There's some really powerful wavelengths that are very seductive, but they'll make me miserable. And so it takes work to stay in that sweet zone that doesn't need not cause us to turn away from the challenges and the sufferings of the world, but in fact quite the opposite, to have the capacity and the courage and the vitality to turn towards it. And there we'll find our purpose, And so that's what, when this full moon comes at in Life Force Academy, a wonderful time, because in just a couple of days we begin our most important sadhana of the year, where we go the deepest we go all year in terms of these practices, and really getting inside of it, and really making sure that our whole psyche, body, mind is well attuned to what we want it to be in our life. It takes work, like anything, to stay healthy as we get older, especially it takes work, There's a reason why more older people go to the gym than younger people. At a certain point, you start to whoa, this thing's not as tight as it used to be. Gravity is taking over. Uh-oh, aging is happening, And that's but then it kicks you into gear. And then you start to work. And out of work, something good comes. But we have this really the full moon comes with an intensity. If this full moon's lunar mansion is in Purvashada, it's like deified water. But it's combined at this particular moment in this particular year with these, and I don't want to go too far, I won't go too far into astrological principles, but we're all feeling it anyway. We have a very intense kind of transit that's happening with Mars and Ketu coming towards each other. Ketu is the south node of the moon. You only see it during an eclipse. This tail of the dragon, also symbolized by a yogi with one's head chopped off. So Ketu is very mysterious energy, but it's also very intense energy. On one hand, it causes dissatisfaction, discontent, but on the other hand, it's the liberating force. They call it the moksha karaka in Vedic astrology, the indicator for liberation. But liberation means that it's going to cause you to face the things that are in the way of liberation, personal liberation. And what is all of that is emotional tendencies, mental tendencies, but usually it gets our attention through life circumstances. You go through a challenging time, especially a challenging time that causes you to look at yourself and my own involvement in the difficult time, and my own ability or inability to stay sane in a difficult time, and to stay in my good character, and to not lash out, and not to be impulsive, and not to destroy my relationships. Relationships are precious. And so, it's a time to try to chill if you can. Meaning in the sense of, that can be non-practical advice, because you can't chill if your whole world feels like it's falling apart. I'm not insinuating that it is. At some level, I think we're all feeling like the whole world is falling apart. It's happening in Leo, so it has to do with, kings and self-identity and all sorts of things, depending where that is in your particular, where the constellation of Leo was in the sky at the moment you were born. That will determine in what kind of domain of your life this is impacting you most squarely. It's impacting us all collectively, generally speaking. So we all have these interesting, incredible lives that we're living. They're totally mysterious. But what this is all about is being able to see the forest for the trees. And so the meditative mind takes us into that space where all of it can be processed. Not processed in intellectual fashion, but processed in such a way that we're no longer overwhelmed by it. We're no longer fearful of it. We've strengthened our sense of self, sense of inner confidence, and that makes us more fearless. Even fears of things like aging and dying start to dissipate because we start dropping into something that doesn't age. That's what the yogi is doing. You're dropping into that thing that doesn't age. That's why people are practicing lots of meditation and yoga practice look very young relative for their age usually. And so that's what this time, that Mars Ketu thing on one hand, on a one level, it can be extremely challenging and potentially destructive. Yeah. On the other hand, it's incredible energy too. It's not innately a bad energy. It's just turbulent and it's intense. Fire and fire and fire. Mars fire, Ketu fire, Leo fire. And so, boom, you get like a combustion that's taking place, and the full moon right now is like crescendoing. So the Ketu always goes retrograde through the sky. And then the other planets, Ketu and Rahu, are the two ecliptic. You only see them during eclipses. They call them Chayagraha, shadow planets. So Ketu's always going retrograde, and the other planets are coming this way. So Mars and Ketu now, since early June, have been in Leo going, and they're like in a week or two they're gonna meet exact. That'll be the most strong part of it. Then it'll go. Okay, this is natural. These are waves of life. Sometimes you get tsunamis, and so that's been happening since early June, and we have the crescendoing energy of the full moon, and here we are. Bueno. Good, because you can always work with it. But big waves are harder to surf than small waves. So the yogi is, though, interested in surfing the big waves. Because there's only two choices. You surf or you try to swim under it. You swim through it. Okay, we can also try that. I think that's a good move. Or you can go crash by it, you know what I mean? And our emotional bodies will feel that, definitely. So, inshallah, we're doing great and feeling okay and feeling good. And that's what this practice is so wonderful for. We're going to do quite the kriya today. First principle of life force formula is kriya. And it's the active kind of catalyst in the whole thing, where you can take your energy and you can do something with it, functional, practical, non-intellectual. You can work with your body, your mind, and your breath to move your energy, to center your energy. By centering the energy, that brings the mind into more relative contentment. Even if you're having a very hard time, you're bringing yourself, it doesn't mean you just fixed it, but you're bringing yourself into relative contentment. Relative contentment is content relative to the circumstances that you're in. Wouldn't you say that's a good step number one? Why not? Because then things are a little less turbulent. Now you can start to work with the mind more rationally. Emotional energy is non-rational energy. So you combine the two. Emotional energy is power energy. That's the water element. What a force. But it can be a force destructively, and it can be a force creatively. So if you can take the emotional energy that tends to go into destructive fashion, and you can learn to center its energy, you can do that by not working with the narratives of the emotion. So this isn't really psychology or psychoanalysis, at least. It is a type of working with psychology in helpful ways, using principles to do that. But what we're not doing within the practice is indulging the narratives that accompany the emotions. Why they did this, da-da-da-da. You're giving yourself relief from that during the kriya. Kriya is you put your your mind's attention on a single point of focus, and all of these narratives as they try to inject themselves, you saying, not now. You allow it, because the mind's potent, it's not just going to stop, and if you say, it should stop, and then it doesn't stop, it's like, I suck at this, I'm not really good at meditating. Nobody's good at meditating. It's not something you're really good at. It's something either you do or you don't. You know, of course, anything you do regularly, you get, quote unquote, better at it. I don't think I'm good at meditating. Like, I'm relative to me, you know, I'm okay. Yeah. But I don't even know what that means, you know. It's just, the thing just keeps getting, at 25 years, it just gets wider and wider and wider. So it's like less convinced of things, but more enjoying things. So that's the better part, you know, less convinced, more enjoying. So, how can you be convinced of anything? This world is incredibly inconceptual, isn't it? The trees and the birds and the ocean, weird ocean creatures, what's that all about? Stars and planets and holy, you know. So how did any of us think? Okay, so let's do yoga practice again. Hands to your, like this. So we're going to go on a journey from here, and we're going to begin the practice of Dharma. You're just going to, what that means, you're just going to put your mind's attention on your breath and the body exercise. And you're putting the body and the breath together in a single rhythm. And as the mind begins to interject other thoughts, ideas, which of course naturally it's going to, you allow, but you don't indulge. But that takes real strong effort, especially at first. The hardest part of this will be the first 15, 20 minutes, because the mind is not cooperating. But eventually the prana, inhale, squeeze up. Exhale, release. The prana is going to center, and you're going to feel good. Stretch your legs out wide like a V shape. Inhale, center, turn to either side, fold, exhale, down. Just a couple of these, opening up the life nerve, because for this particular class, there'll be a lot of sitting. Those of you at home, you sit on a chair, no problem. Have your feet flat on the floor. For most of this, obviously this one, get on down on the floor. Feet flex, groin relax. Fill the lungs with a beautiful, direct, deep breath. Oxygenation of the blood makes the mind feel better. Helps the body feel better. Don't you think? Inhale deep up to the center. Fold down center. Lift up in that position. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Feet flex. Groin relax. Inhaling, lifting. Exhaling, folding. Good. And then relax. Shake your legs out. Come back into the easy pose. You try this breath. It'll be light and rhythmic. That's what it'll be, okay? So come sitting tall, inhale. Exhale. And then through the nose, inhale. Make your exhale, inhale equal. Start it nice and light, and just meditate on equal exhale, inhale. Once you establish that nice rhythm, you can give it a little something. Inhale deep. Exhale. Inhale deep. Same breath. Now listen to the breath. Inhale. Exhale. Hands like this. Palms facing up, fingers firm. Chest out, shoulder blades released, sit bones connected to the ground. Fingers firm, please. Inhale. Inhale very deeply. Make your fingers tight, please, like steel, and lift up through your pelvic floor, the rectal sphincter, the sex organ, and then under your belly button, the abdomen, up and in your navel point. Fingers tight, then like an O-shaped mouth, through like a cannon. Unamas, inhale. Make your fingers tight like steel, lift the pelvic floor. Squeeze the spine. Squeeze your fingers. Like a cannon, exhale. Beautiful, relax that. Now this one, the hands go into the prayer mudra. Inhale. Then. With that strong rhythm, not aggressive rhythm, smooth rhythm, but it has a pace. Lighten it up, soften it up, and let the power come from the rhythm feel. Inhale deeply. Now press the palms super powerful and lift the pelvic floor. Press the palms so they shake. Press them, come on. Press them. Relax. Bravo. Yeah, just adjustment of the system. Sometimes you'll find that, just push this lever that way, push that lever this way. It seems like there's more of like a short circuit in the system. You get everything firing nice and well and say, all of a sudden I guess I do feel cool. I do feel good. I do feel okay. I don't feel like the piece of shit, or I don't feel like I fucked everything up or anything. No? So you need adjustments sometimes to get your confidence right, Confidence doesn't come from what we've accumulated or who our friends are or none of this stuff. Confidence comes because we can feel our own energy and we can feel how good it is. and not be scared of that. That's not narcissism. Narcissism is when we have a complex of the ahankara, the ego, and in subconscious ways that we don't even aware to ourselves, we're putting ourselves above another, and that act in and of itself causes us our own suffering. Because the way to actually cause happiness is to open the heart of compassion and love. It doesn't mean you lack boundaries. That's why Buddhas call the heart of compassion the bodhicitta. It has the two wings of both compassion and wisdom. So out of compassion comes wisdom. That's why, spoiler alert, the final principle of the 7 principles of life force formula is bodhicitta. It's what makes everything else work. With that, you can develop plenty of shakti in the body and energy, and you can make charismatic, and you can be impressive, and then you can also be using that to manipulate, of course. That's what we're often doing as humans. That's going to cause our own suffering first, and then it also causes in the suffering of others. So we have to be real about that, first and foremost with ourselves, inside of ourselves, starting with ourselves, before we're always pointing fingers at others for doing it. And so then, little by little, when we notice that, naturally it hurts to notice that, but once we do notice that, actually everything starts to feel better, because naturally we're compassionate. Our basic nature is that. That's why the mother's blood turns into milk. Love. And so, by being compassionate, wisdom always comes. And what is wisdom? Is the Guru Tattva. Wisdom is the GPS light, the guiding light. Wisdom shows us how to be happy. Wisdom shows us how to love. Wisdom shows us where we can set boundaries without losing love. In fact, our boundaries strengthens love, keeps our life force good. But what we can do in several days is we can create a substantive momentum for ourselves. We can really plug into the source of our happiness and confidence and creativity, and we can gain good perspective on our lives to take our baby steps.
Kundalini has really helped me cultivate the energy to stay focused and present, and to help move blockages.
Doing it online is kind of almost doing it in present. It's like really, you get the same exactly benefits.
And even at home, you do really feel part of the community, Like I really felt like this was my new family.
My first online session, the shift in my thinking, in my attitude, the increased happiness, it's like nothing else that I've ever done online. Nothing else.
Of course, the voice of Simrit and the entire band, the sound current just moves through you.
Just the general teachings of Jai Dev and his humor, his love, his kindness, his wisdom, his insight, like all of it is just such an incredible blend.
If we can create a little bit of time to not only do good exercises, center our life force, but to also arouse our wish for real happiness and the conditions of happiness, which means that I'm wishing for you to have real happiness and the conditions of happiness. Everybody wants happiness, so all it's really promoting is happiness through happiness training.